Everyone, it's Devi with DoItLikeDevi.com, a lifestyle blog including things like travel tips and hopefully more recently been a resource for you or someone just, to accompany you on your journey with this long drawn out immigration process that we're all enduring right now. Today I have on a very, very special guest, the most special guest of all. It's my husband. He is here, before you get too excited, he's here temporarily at the moment on an ESTA tourist visa. We cannot wait to give you a video the day that he's actually permanently here, but right now on a tourist visa, so that is possible, and he'll be here to explain a little bit about how traveling into the US is working at the moment, given the immigration application pending, as well as the current travel bans due to the pandemic. And before we kick everything off, before we get into all the info, please stay connected with me. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Devastate21. So my name, Devi State 21. If you have a question that's a little bit more sensitive info, you can always message me on Twitter. That's typically best, but most of the time the comments here on these videos, the comments below are your best bet as far as asking questions, and also other people can jump into and answer them, so it helps out when you're commenting on the videos. And please, if you find this helpful to you, comment if there's questions, share anything that you can do so that the reach is wide and we're able to filter in this content into the right visibility, since we're all just trying to help each other and share and exchange information. And if you could please subscribe so that you stay updated on my latest updates. I'll continue to keep updating as we go along in this process. So without further ado, right now, currently, finally, we are DQ'd at NVC level, which means now we're just waiting to be scheduled for the interview, which would be great if the embassies were open, but most of them still not yet open. You can reference my last video as well. Just kind of in a funky holding period with so many other people as well in embassies across the globe. Just to give a brief timeline, so submitted everything into SEAC, it was the 28th of February, then waited for so long, about 10 and a half weeks, and then on May 11th, the NVC emailed and said there was messages in the portal, so logged into SEAC. The birth certificate was denied for my husband, so we had to scramble, try to get a new one. It was difficult with the governments being closed, blah. But finally, we were able to then get the correct birth certificate, and we were able to resubmit everything on May 20th. So we resubmitted everything, which just means we've corrected that one document. The rest of the files all just stay in there, and they've already said approved, so they don't really need to touch that. But the whole point is essentially you go into the back of the line. Of course, I called the NVC and I was like, do I really have to wait in the back of the line? It's only one document. Is there any way that you could just take a look at that one? Wasn't there kind of an express checkout, at least here in the US? I don't know how it is in the other countries, but it's if you have 15 items or less, you can go to the express lane. And then she was like, well, it's kind of like you are in line at the grocery store, you forgot the ketchup, so you have to go back out of line and then come back in. So she got me on my own little analogy. So, okay, that's how it's supposed to work. But after that resubmit on May 20th, then on June 1st, we got notice that we got the DQ. That was about 3 weeks after that first thing where the birth certificate was denied, and about a week and a half after the resubmit. So obviously the week and a half is much shorter than that initial 10 weeks before we even heard back from the NVC in the first place. So typically that second time around, the Facebook groups as well, a lot of sentiments have been echoed that the second time is quicker, that you'll hear back, and especially with that IR1, CR1 category, it seems to be going really quickly. So after the DQ, guess what I did? I called the NVC again because I just wanted to see what the deal was with expediting and everything. So I called. Luckily, that day I got a very helpful rep. His name's Nick. I don't know. You don't choose who you get, but he was willing to spend some time on the phone with me. So first, what we did was he did see that I had submitted an emergency interview expedite request on May 18th, and he said that was kind of in a holding period or a holding zone or it actually doesn't get routed off to the embassy, because my embassy London had told them back in March that they're not accepting any expedite requests at all, just due to the pandemic, and that that was the latest that he's heard from the London embassy. So if you do call the embassy, you can ask them about your particular embassy and if they've given any updates to the NBC as far as whether you can make an expedite or if they're reopening, etc. So essentially, if you're going to make an expedite request, a few things to keep in mind. One, if you've already made an expedite request during this pandemic, it doesn't make sense to do a new one until your embassy opens up, just because that request will just sit with the NVC and it'll essentially just sit and do nothing. It might not be forwarded when all the embassies actually open up. The other thing would be, it doesn't penalize you or hurt you if you've already tried to make an expedite request, as I've done in the past, and you've gotten denied. You can keep continuing to make a new one as long as there's new information or a new reason for trying to make the expedite request. If you do the same one over and over, no, it's not going to work. But if there's any kind of new piece of information to help them, decide yes or no, then you can do that. It doesn't hurt you. It probably annoys them, but it doesn't hurt you. Joining us now for this segment is my husband. Thank you.
Your husband.
Thank you for being on.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we're gonna go over the update on traveling into the US on the ESTA tourist visa during the travel ban. Okay, so what happened? You couldn't pre-check in online the day you were supposed to come?
I couldn't pre-check online, so I had to go to do that from the desk at the airport.
So you had to go to the airport. You actually got ticketed, right?
Yeah.
Was it any problems when you were ticketed at the counter?
No, it was not any problem. Just they asked to prove that I'm married to US citizen, so I had the marriage certificate with me. And I showed that to them, and also I showed a photocopy of the passport of my wife.
Right, so have a copy of your marriage certificate to prove your relationship, and then also have the foreign spouse travel with a copy of the US spouse's passport to provide citizenship proof. After that, you were able to go through, but at the gate when you were going to board the plane, what happened?
When I was ready about to board on the plane at the gate, they called my name on the how they call it?
The intercom.
Yeah, intercom. My surname, so I had.
You were like, what happened?
Yeah, I was like in the beginning thinking like, what the hell happened now? And it's first time that I was so famous, so then I went
you
over
were like all like 10 people at the airport.
16 was a flight, 16 people. So I went over there, and US government had put one person from US to check who wasn't US citizen, to check what's the reason that they want to come to US and how they're gonna come, and I told them that I am married. So they told me, show us the marriage certificate.
Okay, so for proof, once you get the ticket, it's fine. But then before you board the plane again, you might have to go through another screening just to make sure that the documents are legitimate.
Yeah, so he was scanning or checking it really well, my marriage certificate. And then he was asking me about is the only reason that you want to go to US to visit your wife, or is something else? And I was responding to him that only that's the reason. And then he told me that you are good to go, and he also said to staff of the British Airways that I came.
Yeah, so he flew on British Airways through London Heathrow to come here to the United States. At any point were you worried that you weren't gonna get let on?
Yeah, I was kind of worried to the moment that I arrived to the airport. But then, since I went the first time at the desk and they printed my ticket with the marriage certificate, then I was feeling relief, So then I just was thinking, what happened now when they they called my name and surname when I was waiting at the gate, but everything was good.
What about when you landed here on the US end?
When I landed here, was not any crazy check-in.
But as far as like being let in the border, was there any kind of questions?
No, like was question, but how long the first time before I arrived to the at the person at border police was one more policeman that, and I asked him, I have a marriage certificate, so do I need to go from the computers to press by myself that I came with a waiver or whatever? And then when I told him I'm married to US citizen, he said, oh, okay, step on that side. And then he was making me questions like, when you got married? I responded to him. He said, how long was the visit that time that he was asking, how long was the visit the last time when you got married? How many times you came here? How long you stayed the last time on your trip?
Yeah.
And did you done another trips and how long they was? And so I just responded to him, in everything that he was asking me. And then he said, yes, you need to go over there to do it on the computer. And I was like, okay, whatever.
Okay, so they did ask you a whole series of questions though, just to kind of make sure that you weren't gonna like overstay your visa. Okay. So yeah, like there is no hard and fast rules on like the ESTA tourist visa. Like you obviously can't stay past the 90 days, but then re-entering the country again, like it was a month between your last trip and now.
Yeah.
So that's fine, but obviously just like be smart about it. Like don't leave the country and then come back in 2 days later or something.
And it just, sorry.
Yeah.
And then when I arrived at the border police, he was asking me again, when you got married and how you gonna do it, your wife gonna come to live there or you gonna come to live here? Then
they were asking you all those questions.
Yeah. And I respond to him and I said that I'm gonna move here, but I'm just waiting the immigration because the embassies right now they're closed. And
did they ask for a return ticket? Or
yeah, he asked me if I
Okay.
have a return ticket, and I told him the exact day that I have the flight back. And then he just said, okay, he checked the passport and everything, and he said, you are good to go.
So entering the country is still possible right now with the travel ban if you have you're coming from an ESTA visa country. Obviously with the proclamation from the White House, just make sure that when you're traveling through the airport that if someone gives you a hard time, you're pointing that part out to them because spouses are able to come through. That's one of the provisions on that White House travel ban for the EU, the UK, and Brazil. Thank you for being on, baby.
Of course, Maricum. And I just want to say, I'm taller than her. Yeah, she's laughing now, but look, just the position of the camera is not so good, okay?
We didn't like the last footage because it was I was closer to the camera.
Yeah.
So it was looking like I was taller.
Yeah, but the truth is that I'm taller, okay? Goodbye.
Okay, updates on all the embassies because that's what we're waiting for. Right now, I am processing through London. So again, thank you for everybody on my last video who's processing through London that let me know. If you hear of anything, please message me because I want to make sure that we all get our interview really soon. As of June 2nd, appointments for K1s, which is fiance visas, and the DCFs, which is direct consular filing, they were able to start scheduling their interviews July 6th and on. That's probably because, as I talked to that nice rep at the NVC, probably because those files have always been at the embassy and not ever from USCIS or the NVC. Those files, the K1s and the direct consular filing, always sat at the embassy and processed through the embassy. So that is the reason why they can schedule their own appointments and why they might have first priority as far as interviews going. The London Embassy has also said that they've resumed scheduling routine appointments like passport renewal, birth abroad applications, and voting and notarization. So basically everything that has nothing to do with us. So they're open for that. So the Scandinavian countries seem to be also progressing with Sweden and Norway have both opened up their biometrics, so their medical appointments prior to the actual interview. As of June 9th, someone from Stockholm, Sweden has an interview coming up in July. Their medical exam is scheduled for June 16th. Another couple processing through Oslo, Norway on the 17th just had their biometrics exam, and the husband was tested for coronavirus, and total fees with all the shots, exam, total, everything was in the range, they said, of $540 to $570. So just make sure that you guys as a couple are carving that money aside to pay for, you know, all of that. It's a pretty hefty fee, and now with the coronavirus testing, it's like, thank you for the additional fee. If you're processing through Frankfurt, Germany, you're very lucky because your embassy is open, scheduling interviews, and people are getting approved. One couple already interviewed, got approved on June 10th, and another one got their appointment notice on June 4th for a June 16th interview. And the previous one that I mentioned, the one that got approved on June 10th, mentioned that she was asked where she met her husband and when she plans to move to the United States. So just good information to know as we get to the next part where we can prep our interviews. To the Middle East, since the end of May, Islamabad, Pakistan put on their website that the first earliest interview appointments would be on July 7th. And then I've seen a series of people in the immigration group or the NVC group on Facebook say that those subsequent appointments scheduled for July have been canceled. So I'm not really sure if they just got like, you know, overzealous and jumped the gun at that embassy, but some of them are being canceled even though the website says differently, that the interviews are open. As of June 9th, pulling this again from the NVC Facebook group I'm a part of, Bangladesh is accepting and approving Expedite requests. So going back to that whole thing I was talking about earlier with the Expedites, some of your embassies might be closed for interviews but open for processing other things and definitely processing Expedite requests. So call the NVC to inquire. So they're open for that, but so far no interviews at Bangladesh. One person emailed on 5/28th to request the Expedite and got approved on June 3rd. As of June 10th, all of July interviews at the Brazilian embassy have been canceled. I'm not exactly sure how many embassies are in Brazil and which one they're talking about. They said Brazil. One couple had their July 13th appointment canceled on June 10th. As of last week, June 11th, one couple processing through Cairo, Egypt, had a July 7th interview that has been canceled. And more good news from Europe. If you're processing through Paris, France, go you, because that embassy is also open. On the 17th, one woman, IR1 spousal visa category, processing through Paris, got her interview for later this month on the 29th of June. So I'm actually going to take all these screenshots and then I'll just compile it onto a page on my blog. That way you can reference it and see the screenshots for yourself. Most of them I'm pulling from the Embassy Process Help Facebook group that I'm a part of. And then I just blurred out some of the names just to protect these people's identity. They didn't ask me to do that, but I just want to, for good measure, just in case one of them is watching and didn't want to be on public display here. So did that, and I'll link down below. So after you watch this video, you can just reference that link down in the caption section below. While we're all waiting, anxiously twiddling our thumbs, getting pissed off, etc., what you can do in the meantime to be proactive is, one, if you want to, you can call the NVC. The line has been a little bit better recently with the whole pandemic situation, so you'll be able to get through. The line is not as tied up as it once was. Ask them about your embassy, if the embassy has updated them at all as far as plans to reopen, or at least if they are accepting, say, things like an expedite request. That could be helpful for you to know. Try to locate your embassy or maybe its ambassadors on any kind of social platforms. I use Twitter, so I've messaged the different consular accounts on Twitter to ask them questions. They usually tell me the same thing, that they cannot determine anything at this time, but at least it's good to just, at least follow them and stay tuned just in case they do happen to release information. Also, I have a ton of people from the Indian embassies on my channel, as well as processing through Islamabad, Pakistan. So thank you all for being here. There's quite a few of you, so I would just continue to, even on my last video, browse the comments to see if anyone from those embassies has given some kind of update, or at least if you see that someone has announced that they're from that same embassy as you, connect with them. That way you guys can exchange information. That will be really helpful in the meantime as we're just all waiting. So I will continue to keep updating. Don't lose the hope. We're almost there, guys. And if you could, please like or comment questions, subscribe for sure, just so you can hear my latest update once I move on to the medical exam and interview, and share if there's someone that this could really help. Thank you all so much for being here. Until the next video, please take care.